The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. Here on 94.9 Rima Central Coast, we were chatting very briefly to Sonia before the 10 o'clock news. We haven't scared Sonia away. Sonia is still here. So I'll say it again. Good morning to you, Sonia.
Good morning.
Now then, you've been at Dooralong, you tell us, for about 6 months, that things were going okay, but we didn't get to learn much of your backstory. So tell us, we know it's for addictions. Your addiction is to what?
My primary addiction is alcohol.
Yeah.
However, this last relapse, I picked up heroin.
Yeah. So that's from alcohol to heroin. Not a good mix, is it?
No, it was a very big jump.
And it's heading in the wrong direction from one drug to a much stronger drug.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what's been going on? You said it was initially alcohol. When did that start for you?
The alcohol stopped in 2017 when I went to a sober living facility in Thailand.
Okay.
I was 17 months sober, and on July the 22nd, 2018, my partner had passed away very suddenly and tragically. 3 weeks after that, I made the conscious decision to pick up heroin because I just wanted to give up. I didn't want to live anymore.
It was almost like trying to end your own life.
Yes, it was.
With heroin.
It was.
Knowing what for so many people who are on heroin, the end result is what we've just described.
That's right.
Yeah. And before we go any further, we do touch upon issues which trigger things for you. As we always say, don't forget to ring our friends at Lifeline on 13 11 14. Those people are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year. Just give them a ring if anything we talk about triggers something for you, and you just need to talk to somebody in confidence. 13 11 14. So you started with the alcohol, Sonia. You mentioned just then that you went to Thailand. I don't think we've ever spoken to anybody that's been to one of those rehab centres in Thailand. So if it's okay with you, a little later we might go into that in a little bit more detail and find out what life in a Thai rehab is like.
Sure.
But you said you started with alcohol. How many years ago did that start?
The alcohol started when I was 12. So I'm 35 now. Yeah.
It's been with you a long time.
It has been with me for a very long time.
And you started it because you were experimenting?
I think so. I didn't have friends, and I had an older sister, and I just wanted to fit in. So I started drinking, and I remember the first time I had a drink, I didn't drink to sort of have fun. I drank to the point where I blacked out, and it was always that way for me.
So you knew what the end result was going to be when you went out for a party or sort of out with your friends. You knew that if you started drinking, you'd be drinking to oblivion.
Yes.
Yeah. And you looked forward to that?
I did.
Yeah.
It was an escape for me.
An escape. And like so many people have told us from Dooralong, it's an escape from, and we're not asking you to go into detail, but it's an escape from sort of stuff that's happening in their life that they prefer not to face up to.
Yeah, definitely.
It's an escape, as you say, into another world just for a few hours to get away from something unpleasant that's happening.
Yeah.
And that was it for you? That was
it for me.
Did your family notice?
My family did notice. It wasn't until a very long time, very well into my addiction, when my family noticed. I think they started to notice after my grandmother passed away. My drinking really became every day. And uncontrollable. I couldn't go anywhere without drinking. I couldn't drive without drinking. It was horrible.
Wow, this has really stepped up, hasn't it? It's no longer just a party time thing, social thing, is it?
No.
Every day you're talking. Every
day. And some of my work colleagues didn't even know I drank because I wouldn't drink at work functions because I didn't drink like everyone else. So I would go into the bathroom and drink my own alcohol because I didn't want anyone to see that I didn't drink like them.
We sometimes have that stereotype which is sort of fostered by films of alcoholics drinking on their own in secret. Was that you?
Definitely. I was literally a closet drinker. I had a bedroom in my house that was converted into a wardrobe, and I would sit there and drink and hide the bottles in my wardrobe.
And you say this was triggered really by the death of your grandmother and the grief?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of other things through my childhood, obviously, that had happened. But, yeah, definitely the loss of my grandmother. I think she was the one person in my life that, you know, truly loved me unconditionally. And I could tell her anything. She was always there for me.
Very important person for you.
Definitely.
Unconditional love, somebody you could depend on to always be there, and now she's no longer there.
Definitely.
And the drink increases.
Yes, it did.
You mentioned that you found a partner and you lived with a partner for a while. During that time, were you still drinking?
I was married at one point.
Right, sorry.
Yeah,
yes, my fault.
I was married at one point, and yes, I was drinking. It did lead to my marriage breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your partner just couldn't cope with it? Your husband couldn't cope with it?
Well, no, he couldn't. Obviously, there was a lot of
other issues as well.
Yeah, there was other issues there as well, but I left him in the end because I realised that I was just really unhappy within myself.
Yeah. And then you later said that your husband or your partner died?
Yeah, so I left my husband quite a few years ago, and I met somebody while I was in recovery, and I never drank during that relationship. Yeah, so that was a really beautiful relationship that I had with him.
So things looked as if they turned the corner. You've been sober for a long time. You found a partner who loves and respects you, and first time for a very long time. Things are looking good for you.
Yes, it did. It was a really amazing time of my life.
And then?
And then he passed away suddenly.
And that would just be like a kick to the stomach.
It was. I don't even have the words to explain how heart-wrenching.
Just emptiness.
Emptiness.
And that's when you decided to, for the reasons that you discussed earlier, that's when you turned to heroin.
It is.
How long ago was that? We're in 2019 now. How long ago was that?
That was so he passed away in July 2018, so it was 3 weeks after he passed away.
So we're only talking last year.
Yes.
So it must still be very raw for you.
It is.
Yeah. After he passed away and you started taking the heroin, well, we know you're at Dooralong now, and we know that you've had time in Thailand. Somebody or something must have prompted you to seek out help.
Sure. My family were watching me, die. There was nothing they could do. They knew that I needed to make the decision to get help. And I didn't want to live, but I wasn't dying, so something had to change. And a friend of mine who'd been to Dooralong contacted me and told me that I should give it a go. I'd actually met him in a rehab in Thailand, and he had nothing but great words about Dooralong, and it had changed his life. He'd got his family back, he'd started a business. So when it was time to make the decision to get help, and I was ready, I called Dooralong.
Yeah. Did you have to go on a very long waiting list? Sometimes we've heard people, they do go on a long waiting list. Other people get in there quite quickly. How was it for you?
I was extremely lucky. I rang on the Thursday, and I got a call back the next day on the Friday that they had a bed for me on the Monday.
I think that probably more than anything illustrates how much at risk they thought you must have been.
Yes, that's correct. I'd also already been in detox for a month.
Yeah. Because sometimes people are on a waiting list and they get counselled and all the rest of it. But obviously they thought for you, no, we've got to get Sonia in. She's at so much risk.
It was really a life and death matter for me. I'd lost my will to live.
Yeah. Look, we're going to break for some more music. We're going to come back. We're going to be much more positive because, 6 months ago, Sonia did cross the threshold into Dooralong, and things have changed for her mentally and in her outlook on life. So,
4.9.
Well, the time is 10:25. We're talking to Sonia this morning. Sonia, who has been to rehab centres in Thailand. We left we left her story at that point where she came to Dooralong. Before we go any further, Sonia, if you had to sum up the difference in approach maybe between the sort of rehab and the treatment that takes place at Dooralong and what you discovered in the rehab centre in Thailand, are there similarities? Are there big differences? How does it work?
There are some similarities within the actual place itself. I mean, Dooralong is very tranquil, serene, beautiful setting, very much like the places in Thailand. However, I think the program at Dooralong is a lot more in depth. It's catered individually to each person, whereas the programs in Thailand are very jam-packed and everyone has the same content.
It's off the shelf sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly, out of the box. The other thing is what I found is the treatment centres in Thailand, because you are there for limited time, you're unpacking a lot of your past traumas and things like that. And it does leave you very open and raw. You don't process things the way you're supposed to. The great thing about Dooralong is it's slow. You've got time. You're able to unpack those things and go through them and not just leave them there.
Yeah, and it is important, as we've been told so many times with guests from Dooralong, that they process some of those past hurts that they've been sort of carrying around with them for so many years. It's not something that can be rushed, otherwise those hurts are just going to bubble up again.
Yeah, that's correct. If you don't deal with them in the proper manner, they're just going to stay there.
And at Dooralong, you found that you've had the opportunity to do that, have you?
I definitely have, and continuing to still do that.
Continuing to still do that, yeah. The other thing, and this is probably different than Thailand, is of course that the Dooralong Centre is run by the Salvation Army, so it's sort of an openly Christian sort of based organisation. How did that sit with you when you went to Dooralong?
When I first got to Dooralong, my first chapel night, I remember sitting in chapel and I was very angry and resentful.
Angry at who?
Angry at God. Yeah.
Because your partner had just died, the love of your life.
Correct. And I'd lost my faith.
Yeah.
I'd lost my faith. I was angry.
I think a lot of people could understand that.
Yeah, I think it's quite a natural thing to go through. And it took me a couple of weeks, but about the third week in, I remember a song being played, and it's called Tell Your Heart to Beat Again, and I just sobbed, and it was like a huge release, and I felt like my heart had been opened again, and like I had that connection again to God.
Yeah. Again, because you were telling me earlier that you were brought up as a Catholic.
Yes, I was brought up as a Catholic.
Yeah. So the concepts of Christianity and faith were familiar to you, but understandably, you were angry. You couldn't understand why God had allowed your partner to die.
That's right. I couldn't understand why he had brought happiness to my life for the first time in such a way and then taken it away so...
Just 17 months later?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has, with time and with sort of counselling and Christian sort of teaching there, has that anger melted? You said it did a little bit when you heard that tune, that song. Yeah,
the anger has melted. I think I believe I'm at peace, with God, and I can see that, he didn't do this to hurt me. No. So I have come a long way from that, but it was a process. It was a process.
Yeah. So in a way, the fact that it was a Christian-based organisation and you held that anger towards God, it's good that that you went there, because otherwise you would still be carrying that anger for God and it wouldn't have been dealt with.
I really believe so. I believe there was a reason for me to go there.
Yeah, that's good. And you were telling me that you've been to some of the local churches. Can't remember which one you mentioned. Which one did you mention? Bonnells Bay Salvos Church. That's a good church?
It's a great church. It's a great community.
Church. Yeah. Nice people there?
Lovely people.
Yeah. Will finding a church family be on your to-do list when you sort of graduate from?
Yes, it definitely will. I find that the connection I have with the people at the church is really important to me. They definitely helped in the process of loving me back to life when I couldn't love myself.
Yeah. The value of a church family, it's priceless, isn't it?
It really is.
As you say, some people just to be there and not judge you and just accept you and, as you say, love you even though you may not love yourself.
Definitely. I feel like I've been judged my whole life, and to step into, a chapel or a church and feel that love and them take me as I am and get to know me, that's a real blessing.
A lot of non-Christians or people that have been hurt by the church maybe would find it strange that here we are talking about going to church and finding love and unconditional acceptance, because they have this idea that people in church are going to judge them and look down upon them and sneer at them. That's obviously not been your experience at Bonnells Bay or anywhere else that you've been to recently.
Definitely not with the Salvation Army. I think that was the problem growing up Catholic. I was definitely judged when I went to church.
Yeah.
So I think as I got older, and it kept me away, because I believe that's just the way it was. And coming to Dooralong and being exposed to the Salvation Army and the church and the community, it's just blown me away.
Surprised you?
Very much surprised me.
But in a good way?
Oh, in a great way, yeah.
Now, you've been there 6 months. What sort of level are you in? We know they all have different levels, the induction level and level 1. What level are you?
I'm actually just about to go into re-entry next week.
Right. So you've been enjoying weekend leave and things like that?
I have been enjoying weekend leave.
And your family live locally, do they?
I do have my sister who lives up at the Central Coast. However, my daughter, she's in Sydney.
But you've been able to go and see her at weekends?
I have been able, yes.
Yeah. She must be proud of Mum.
She is.
Yeah. How old is she?
She's 7.5.
Oh, she's still a little one.
She is a little one.
So she gets to see you at the weekends, and she's going to be a big part of your life when you leave.
She definitely is.
Yeah. And leaving is something we'll talk about. Talking to Sonia this morning from the Dooralong Transformation Centre, who's been about 6 months now and is looking forward, cautiously, to graduating. We don't know when that will be, because, of course, it depends on her treatment team and all the rest of it, but probably within the next month or so, do you think, Sonia?
Yeah, I'd say probably within the next month.
How do you feel about that?
Excited, nervous, a little bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But all in all, I believe that I will be ready, which is why there's really no date on it.
Exactly. Yeah. Which would be unlike the experience in Thailand, where you probably have to pay for, and when the money runs out, you have to leave, sort of thing.
That's right.
Yeah. And you were also telling me another thing about Thailand is they make life too comfortable for you. Explain to the listeners what you meant by that.
They do. You sort of feel like a spoilt child over there. All your laundry's done. You get massages a few times a week, pedicures and manicures. You're absolutely pampered.
Which sounds great, but you say it's not. Why is it not?
No, it's not. And the other thing is that you don't actually leave the rehabilitation centre. So when you do leave to go on about your normal life, you have to then be faced with doing washing, cooking, all the normal stuff
that you haven't been doing for the last
that you haven't been
months.
doing. You've been in a bubble, and even making your bed. You don't make your bed over there. But not going out even into a shopping centre or being around other people. The first time you step out, it is really overwhelming.
So they don't integrate you back into real life in any sort of meaningful way?
Not at all.
Whereas at Dooralong you can be scrubbing the floors or like yourself working in the kitchens or on property maintenance, but you have to work.
That's right.
And you are integrated slowly back into the community by weekend leave and trips out and that sort of thing.
That's correct, and I think that's a really important part of the program because it shows that you can do these things. You can go out and slowly and more often as time goes on, you can go out and do normal things as a sober person.
Yeah. Finally, Sonia, What's the biggest change between now and the Sonia that we would have been speaking to 6 months ago? If we'd have met the Sonia of old and the Sonia of today, what do you think's been the biggest change in you during your time at Dooralong?
For me, I'd have to say today I have hope.
Hope.
I want to live.
Yeah. That's a pretty fundamental 180-degree change, isn't it? Because, as you explained to us earlier, there was a time in your life when you didn't want to live.
That's correct. It was probably a whole year from the day my partner passed away. I was in deep depression, and I would wake up every day hoping that something would happen to me and my life would end.
And now you wake up with hope for the future.
I do.
Yeah. And we thank God for that, and we thank God that He found you a place at Dooralong.
Definitely.
Yeah. Look, it's been a privilege talking to you this morning, Sonia. I was going to say you've got to go back because you'll be working in the kitchens, but no, you explained to us that it's the boys are doing the kitchen work tonight. But you'll be going down to chapel, you'll be having a great time of worship down there?
Yes, I definitely will. It's a great energy on a Wednesday night at chapel at Dooralong.
Yeah, I can testify to that, having been there. It is so much positive energy in the room. You can almost reach out and touch it.
It's very uplifting.
You have a great time, and we just pray that God, as He has steered you to Dooralong and sort of healed and dealt with that anger you had towards Him, as He's dealt with that, we just trust that He will sort of already have the next chapter of your life already mapped out, and that you sort of respond to His promptings.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to an encore presentation of the Dooralong stories, which can be heard live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and repeated 8 p.m. Sunday and 1 a.m. Wednesday, right here on 94.9 rema.cc.